And good morning, everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is your Wednesday wrap-up, and of course, I am here with my guys, Mr. Yu and
Good
Herb.
morning.
How's it going, gentlemen?
Morning.
Good to roll, brother. Excited.
Yeah, of course, Wednesday wrap-up. We got the Super Bowl wrapping up, and of course, this is Wednesday, so we've talked about the Super Bowl on numerous before we start looking ahead into things like the draft and the combine, free agency period, watching the rest of the coaches get hired. But of course, we got to talk a little bit about San Fran melting down. And of course, they're in my division, so I enjoyed that a little bit.
There's nothing like sports hate.
You just don't want someone in your division hanging a banner on you, right? Like it's zero fun when you go to their building and they're like, "Hey, look at this shiny toy I got." So
yeah, very good, young Jedi.
Very good, young Jedi. Let the hate flow through you.
Yeah, that's it.
Good.
I embrace it. I embrace it, even though I did take them to win. They did have the better roster. And realistically, they should have won. They had all the tools to win that game. It was just mistakes, and really across the board, right? Special teams mistakes, play calling mistakes, time management mistakes, and of course, really untimely penalties. But
mistakes?
If there was a bad time to do something, they did it. Like
exactly
on cue.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, we really need this. What if we hold right here?"
Right.
Yeah.
And a holding call that they're not really calling a whole lot of this whole game. So we'll do this one, and let's look at the replay. Oh, his arm is wrapped around the guy's head. I guess
you're right.
I guess they had to call it.
They weren't even ticky-tack calls, right? Like, It was straight arm barring guys, and you're just like, yeah.
That's not weird.
Man, and then of course there were some, that weren't called that were kind of crazy, where KC was like hardcore, like under the shoulder pad holding,
right?
And you're just like, I feel like that was a penalty, right?
Right.
They didn't see it. Kind of adds to that NFL is rigged kind of a scenario when that kind of stuff happens and nobody sees it. It's like, oh wow.
That is one of the unfortunate things when stuff like that comes together, right? Because then it feeds into that. And then, of course, at the same time, you got Vegas involved. So then you're like, okay, are they really rigging these things? Like, they trying to make a couple extra bucks?
And they're in Vegas too, so extra.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know what the biggest turning point for you guys was, but for me, it was let's just abandon the running game in the third quarter, right? They used CMC 3 or 4 times the entire quarter, and they basically just squander the lead that they had, and it's something that Shanahan has done, right? In all 3 of the Super Bowls he's coached in, once as a coordinator, 2 as a head coach. With double-digit leads, he abandons the run at the exact moment where you're like, hey, we should double down on the run and chew this clock up.
Right.
So just very weird.
The first drive, I think, to me was the worst because you start off in plus territory. Like, doesn't that scream? It either screams deep shot, but if I've got Purdy as my guy, like, I don't think, I know a lot of teams like to go for that kill shot then. I just don't feel like with Purdy I'm getting that. So give your best player a touch first. But to not give him a touch at all on the first drive when you start there, you don't even that much for field goal range. Like, I got to get points, right? How many Mahomes interceptions do you think you're getting? Like, I don't know. That was the worst one, and then it just, I don't know, dog pile from there. I don't know. Yeah. And to that point, my last point on this one, did you not watch the Baltimore game? End of the run, lost the game. They're like, that was an anomaly. We can do it. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's like they were looking at it like, oh, Baltimore's a bunch of scrubs. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So
I mean, sometimes people are too smart for their own good, man. I mean, that first play, like you said, it's really true, man. You had a chance to beat up 2 scores on the defending Super Bowl champions. I mean, you can't understate that kind of stuff. I mean, if they had done that, if they, in the bizarro world, had they done that and they were up by 14 and they already have won the ball possession game already, they were already winning that by almost more than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
If you had done that and keep on giving Mac the ball constantly, this Super Bowl would be totally different, probably. I mean, Mahomes is Mahomes, and that's fine. We respect that. But this game could have been over a lot earlier.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Get some kind of points in the third quarter. And this is safety. Nothing in this third quarter. 0, a goose egg. So all those things combined together, it was just a comedy of errors, and it's just like, wow, you missed opportunity you had in your hand that not many can say, they have against a team like this. Yeah. So to Herb's point, it's like that first play was pretty rough, but that third quarter,
it was.
I feel like that was the big difference. But nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, how much did they win by? Yeah, exactly. So how you scored nothing? If you scored a field goal, they'd be like Jake Moody kick a field goal here. That's you're back in this game, and maybe perhaps overtime wouldn't be necessary.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it changes the whole complexion of the rest of the quarter. Maybe KC is pressing a little bit more down, 2 scores. Maybe you don't get that punt. Maybe you don't get that muff punt at that exact moment, because really the only thing you did in that quarter was not move the ball, then muff a punt to give them it, because KC wasn't doing anything otherwise. So it's like you can change the whole complexion by getting a score when they started with the ball, and then you just scrap the whole thing. Like the third quarter will be one to forget forever for San Francisco.
And they were pressing. Look how they were acting. I mean, Rashee Rice and Mahomes were going at each other. Yeah. I mean, Kelsey and Reed, you know about that. There was a whole bunch of areas where they were just, almost imploding. If that's a word I can use here. It's like, and I think somewhere in the second quarter, I forget the play, so forgive me for that, but there was an opportunity to score there too for the Niners, and I think they went 4 and out, something like that. I think it might happen more than once in the second quarter. Imagine going into halftime with a huge lead on the champions. It's like they can come back and play, but it's like you're up by 3 or 4 scores. Like it's academic. Just hold on to the ball, give it to C-Mac and run it, and this thing is over if we even get to the fourth quarter. But it's all guesswork now because that's not what happened, and they missed opportunity. Man, it was kind of a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like if there was ever a year for the Niners to get it done, this was it, right? I mean, you couldn't have really assembled much better of a roster than what they had. And it's not like they needed Purdy to play out of his mind. They needed him to do exactly what he did. He played a great game. I mean, you can't even that was one of the things that was probably the funniest kind of storyline coming out of this is the next day people were like, oh, Purdy's a scrub. He can't play. And I'm just like, what are you guys talking about? Like, you couldn't have asked him to play much cleaner of a game than he did. And that defensive front from KC was in the backfield all the time. Like, he was back there getting blasted as he was delivering the ball. So did he have a couple that sailed on him a little bit? Yeah, because he was on his way to the ground. Like, I don't care how good of a quarterback you are. That's really not how that works. Like, you're not completing that ball.
Yeah, I mean, although we went into it. Yeah.
There is a stat here that let's see, where is it? Here we go. Comparing to Jimmy G. Look at these stats. These are
must we?
Weirdly identical. Outside of the passer rating
and the touchdown interception ratio. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
tells me Purdy takes care of the ball a lot more, but it also just kind of speaks, I think, to San Francisco and the weapons around them. Like you said, we don't need you to be the best quarterback in the league. We just need you to. I mean, I hate the game manager thing, but we do just need you to do what we need you to do. Get it to the guys that we say get to. So,
and we need you to make 3 special plays a game.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, we need you to make a good decision and make a special play to extend a drive 2 to 3 times a game. That's it. Outside of that, just do what the armband tells you to do.
Definitely. And back to that other point, Niners had about 3 opportunities in the second quarter. One, they were on KC's 20 and didn't get any points out of it. Then it happened again later on. But it's like I came into this thinking about the defense until I actually did some math. I didn't do a lot of research on defensive rankings before the game. But in the regular season, KC was second and the Niners were 8th, I think it was. In the playoffs, they both dropped down a couple of points in the rankings, 4 and 8 and 10th respectively. So something definitely happened there. So I'm like, seeing that now, I'm like, wow, maybe I shouldn't pay attention to defense as much and look at the offense, because I think the Niners have, for the first time in history, they're the 6th team that has 4 guys on their roster that were 1,000-yard playmakers or what have you. So it's like, why not do what works for you? I would assume it's going to be C-Mac, Ayuk,
Debo.
I'm going to Debo, and I don't know who the 4th playmaker is, to be honest with you. I have no idea who that is. I doubt it's Kittle.
Not Kittle? Yeah. That's what I would think. He disappeared in this game, though, but I would think overall it would have been Kittle.
Yeah.
1,000 yards? Okay. I don't know. I don't know where that happened. But but you have that kind of ability out there. And, you know, it's obviously, to get 1,000 yards, all these guys, that must mean you're moving the ball, right? So why are you not doing that? Why'd you stop doing that? So it's like they're going to be having nightmares about this going into next season. It's like, wow, you had a chance that you could pick it apart. And nitpicking is not a good thing, especially after the fact. But it's like they're going to be thinking about this for a long time, because you had an opportunity that many don't have. You can't pass it up. I mean, the Ravens didn't even have. The Eagles didn't have an opportunity quite like this. It was different in its own way. You know what I'm saying? It's like you did something that the Eagles didn't do. They had the Chiefs on the ropes. And the boys were stressing and panicking and fighting with each other and getting almost imploding. And it's like you dropped it. You missed it. And now you hear about the players talking about, oh, we didn't know about the overtime rule. I'm like, oh, my God. Is that what you're going with?
That was a whole nother
I didn't understand.
That was like I know that I thought they lost it in the first and third quarter. So I on Monday, I think I hadn't really, dove into this as much. But have you seen the explanations from Shanahan about taking the ball first? He wasn't even playing for the first possession. He was playing for the third possession. He actually said, I thought we were going to score. And then if they scored, we would get the ball, for the sudden death. That's what you're playing for?
And he got veterans on their team, like Kyle Juszczyk. He's not new. He's not a rookie. Kyle Juszczyk's been around for a while. And he said we haven't even talked about it. Eric Armstead, the DT, they haven't even talked about it. On the other side, Justin Reed, who's not I guess he's considered a veteran as well on the Chiefs side. He said we talk about it every week.
Yeah,
every week we discussed it.
It's the postseason.
Look at the dichotomy there. That's a problem. And Monday we talked about whether
you take the ball second. I'm sorry. That's just
so. I would say you used to, right? Because if you could hold the first guys to a field goal, you were going to get that second shot, right? And then you knew that you had, or if you blank them, right? But I actually kind of agree with Shanahan here in the way that now both teams, regardless of the score, right? Like if the first team scores, whether it's a touchdown, field goal, doesn't matter. The other team gets the ball, right? KC had been moving the ball, no problem at the end of that game. They had just drove down and got the field goal tied up. So I actually don't mind taking the ball there, because then you do kind of play for that third possession a little bit, because otherwise how they haven't been stopping them. If KC goes down and scores and say you match it, your guys are gassed. Like you could see they were gassed. So I would have wanted to keep Mahomes off the field as many times as possible instead of giving him 2 cracks at it in overtime.
But see, the thing is that where it's going to fall apart on that is, you give all the power to the person and say, because like you take that 4th down that they had in their own territory. If you have the ball first and your defense is playing well, maybe you punt that. Versus San Francisco before that hole was absolutely about to punt the ball. A 4th and they were facing a 4th
holding call.
Yeah. So they're absolutely about to punt the ball. Second, and I know this is unfair to bring up, but KC's already said they were going to go for 2 in there, which I can't blame them. You probably don't want to put your defense back out there after this long game and long overtime. So I just feel like there's too much power in the second person's decision making, and going into it knowing, okay, we've got to score, so there's no punt. So on my third down play call can affect my fourth down play call. You know what I mean? Just that sort of thing. So, I would disagree with that on that.
So you definitely have that, right? Like you get to use all 4 downs, no doubt, right? Because especially if you're behind, you're going to use all 4 downs because you have to. Because first, if you can't get the first, it doesn't matter. Game's over. So you do end up with some power there, but it's the fact that KC had started moving the ball pretty easily against that D, which is why I would have went the way they did. Now, I would have expected my defense to at least be able to hold up enough to make them kick a field goal, right? But when you look at that defensive alignment, especially where they scored, like, there was no one around. So I don't know what they were trying to do, but man, it didn't work.
I don't know, man. This is.
It was an unfortunate way to end.
Yeah,
but
the other guys on the other team are saying, "But them guys are crazy for taking the balls." Like, how are they not crazy now? Your opponent is saying you're crazy for doing it. It's like, if it's to their advantage, they should want you to do it, right? So that's like, no. Yeah. I think they probably shouldn't have done what they did. And not having a knowledge about the overtime rules is kind of inexcusable. It falls back to coaching like we talked about on Monday. I ain't saying fire Shanahan, but come on, man. You got 2 veterans saying we never discussed it.
Yeah, I mean,
I doubt they're lying about that. So it's like that's problematic.
So here's the thing with that, and why I think that's just a wild statement from those guys, because it's not like they kicked that field goal and everybody was jumping up and down like they won, right? Because if you didn't know the rules, you'd have been like, Super Bowl. Oh, wait, where's the confetti? Like, you would have saw some excitement. But, I mean, defense just rolled out on the field. So, what are we talking about? Besides, whether you knew
the rule hasn't been that way for a minute, though. Even a field goal hasn't won you in regular season now.
Well, and that was going to be my next point about it, is that part of the rule has been around for like 5 years, which is longer than most of those dudes been in the league. So it's not like this is new to them. So I don't know. It doesn't make sense. That excuse doesn't hold a lot of water for me.
Right.
Because whether you knew or not, you still got to go out there and play.
Right. No, I agree with that. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So, but that one just didn't hold a lot to me. Cause again, you didn't see excitement on the sideline. Like they're like, hey, we just won the Super Bowl. And I don't know.
Okay.
I think you hear a lot. So I did listen to some San Fran stuff this week, and the stuff people say, like, right, and that would be me, by the way. I'd be the poorest loser ever. The interview you got from me right after the game would be so different from the interview you got from me like the next day. And I was listening to this San Fran, and one guy did his podcast while the confetti was still coming down. He said, I turned it off. I'm not watching that crap. And he's just like, you just hear way more emotional stuff, and I just wonder sometimes if it's just like, we didn't know anything, just kind of blurting out stuff or talking just because you're mad. But I agree. I mean, it doesn't hold water. You still got to play regardless of whatever the rules are. And I put more on the coaches. Like, they're the ones supposed to know all this stuff and cover all the scenarios. So
they earned a ring, though. They earned a ring. M&M sponsored it.
Do you get to eat it?
Champions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ate it all right.
Yeah,
you ate it big time.
I just think they're just going to look back at this Super Bowl as just wasted opportunities, man. You got, we're talking about off the air how tough it is to get to 4 like the Bills did, man. Just getting to a couple in this day and age, especially with free agency and the way the parts are moving, like they're about to have to pay some people. Getting back to this point, like you just can't waste these kind of opportunities, especially when overall it looks like you have the better team,
Yeah,
and them in Baltimore probably kicking themselves.
It's funny because there's been a lot of the, especially day after, you got to fire Shanahan, and I mean, has he come up short in big spots? Absolutely, but he at the same time with San Fran has gotten you to 2 Super Bowls and 3 more championship games.
Yeah.
Like, how much more success outside of actually collecting that ring do you think firing him and bringing the next guy in is going to give you?
Right.
So, I mean, I get the frustration day after, but I mean, I don't know how you fire a guy that's Super Bowl, 3 championship games, Super Bowl. Like,
right.
I mean,
Right. No, and what did we say the other day? Like, how many teams would trade places with them in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
Other than maybe Kansas City, right? I mean,
there's 30 other teams. The only
yes.
one that won is KC.
Everybody but Casey.
Yeah. So here's what they need to do with Shanahan. Like, he can get them to the big game. Then they just go to the bullpen, bring in the closer, and let that guy coach the last game.
Oh, wow.
Easy. When he's like, all right, we're going to pass here, the guy goes, run the ball, C-Mac. And, it can be that easy sometimes.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this is kind of true, right? They're all paid to know their job. Contractors are expected to know the law code changes to our trade. So yes and no, right? So you should know, right? Like you should know. But at the same time, it would also be the job of your GC,
and that's
general contractor, right? Similar to your head coach. If there's an obscure law that you may not know, it is their job to make sure that you do. So, although I do agree with that mostly, there were changes to the touchdown aspect of overtime. So that's up to your coach to make sure that everybody's up on that. That being said, whether you knew or not, you still got to go out there and play the game. So I don't feel that bad for them.
Of course you don't.
Well, not just because there's some Niner
pray for their demise. Of course you won't feel bad for
them.
But you still did let a team drive all the way down and score a touchdown. I mean,
that's the thing.
It still happened on the field. So
yeah, it's not like it was some technicality that you lost by. It was you guys just didn't play good defense for that second drive. I mean, all you had to do was keep them out of the end zone, make them forced to kick a field goal, and then you still have it in your hands. The fact that you couldn't get a stop, that's solidly on you. The fact that you guys were out of position in the end zone, solidly on you, right?
Guaranteed to be a point of emphasis in the draft. Guaranteed.
Were their last two touchdowns really just terrible missed calls and defense was just all over the place as far as
the defense just looked gassed, right? Yeah. Like they just looked tired at the end of that game. Now they were super amped all day, so it makes sense that they just didn't have a lot in the tank at the end.
Yeah. It's going to be a point of emphasis in the draft, no doubt, man. It's weird to see a top 10 defense that has to talk about defense in the draft. I think they have to. I don't know if it's a depth situation or if it's just football IQ. I don't know, but there was some things that look weird off and on throughout the year. We've seen it in a couple of spots. I'm not surprised that they were 8th and 10th, going into the end of the season and into the playoffs. I'm not surprised by this. Something's dropped off there. So I don't know if it's a DC thing. I don't know what it is, but they got to execute in the draft. Now they have to. You can see it.
At the same time, they did end up with a lot of injuries during that game. I mean, another Achilles tear. That
had to be the worst, man.
For sure. It's just running onto the field. Like, he's bouncing, he's amped, he's ready to go, plants his foot to run out, pop. And you're just like, man, like that was the amount of Achilles injuries this year is crazy. Like I can't remember another year where so many Achilles tears happened. I mean, ACLs happen all the time, right? Like you catch somebody on a knee and that thing pops immediately. But Achilles tears, that's one of the bigger tendons in your leg. That's not like a super easy, just it's going to pop.
It's happened more times than you think. I think we're starting to get desensitized to it now because now we see so much like, oh yeah, it's another one. I think it happens a lot. All the way back to Beckham and a whole bunch of other times. It's happened more times than we. Yeah, if you go back and research it, it's happened constantly.
No. I'm not saying it didn't happen before. I'm just saying there was a larger volume of them this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's one of the podcasters he was the only one to bring it up was how much he thought that affected the game, the Greenlaw injury being one of the worst. So
okay.
No, he felt like that, but I don't know. I still felt like they controlled the game pretty well. Like we even talked about that third quarter, they pretty much gave Casey a touchdown with a muff punt and then bad communication on defense. So I could see why he would say that. And to be fair, the person who brought it up was the first person hey, I'm doing my podcast as he's like, I turned the TV off. I'm not watching the celebration. So he was doing his podcast then. Yeah.
Hey, good on him for just turning it off and not breaking his TV.
I saw that one, man, where they went WWE style on the
right, just like.
Then what is his wife comes around the corner and starts jumping on it too as well. I was like, wow, okay.
I ain't breaking my 70-inch for nobody.
No, I'm not breaking it. I'm not breaking my 32-inch for anybody.
Wow, respect that on the respect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why there's the TV doorbusters every year, right? I thought it was just Cowboys fans, but apparently other people break their TVs too.
No.
I never could figure out why there was that Black Friday. We have TVs every time. Like, I don't know how many TVs you need, but apparently if you smash one every year, you got to get a new TV.
Another one? No. In our living room, we've got our 65. I've got my old 40-inch Panasonic sitting over here that's got a Roku attached to it that I watch secondary games on. I'm not breaking that thing for anybody, okay?
No.
I will turn it off, walk away for a minute. That's what I do after my losses. Take a minute, read all the, are you okay text? Yes, I'm fine. Don't worry. Stop asking me.
I'm
move
fine.
on with my life.
A little bit inside.
Yes, that's it. So, and I start researching pickleball stats. That's how I that's how I cope with my losses. All right, but the TV will be safe.
No, I mean that's the thing. Like I had a TV on the deck that it was like a $50 Craigslist purchase because I knew it was going to be outside and get ruined. I still wouldn't even break that one. Like, no. What are we doing right now?
Yeah.
Why am I creating more work for myself? I already feel bad my team lost.
Yes. And no one from there is going to come to replace it for you. So
not a chance. Not a chance. They're not sending me money or nothing.
Can't send the NFL a receipt.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's got to. I think it has to go directly to the team, right? Like in this case, you sending it to Niners headquarters. You're like, yeah. So you guys owe me a 65-inch TV because you guys suck and made me break my TV.
Yeah, that's gonna go over well.
Yeah, they're gonna send you nothing. So of course, you got Kelsey freaking out on Reed, right? And I even get why he was frustrated because he wasn't used a lot, especially in the first half, right? He had like one catch for 1 yard, and then the play that he should have been in, there was a different tight end, missed his block completely, causes the fumble, right? So I get why he lost his mind there. Obviously, it's a bad look overall, but where the narrative would have been interesting is say the Niners do win,
right?
Now all of a sudden, instead of that being viewed as, oh, he was passionate and, whatever, that narrative immediately changes to this is where it all unraveled for KC.
Yeah. And you combine that with what, Monsieur was talking about earlier with the Rice and Mahomes thing. Yep. It would have been, do they have to break up KC? Is the team imploding? Is this it for Kelsey? You just know where the stories would have gone. And those would have been all the pictures combined with it. So, yeah, it's amazing how winning and losing changes everything you've seen, right? You barely see that picture anymore unless it's a meme versus, like you said, if they lose, that's it for them.
Yeah. That headline's center for like 3 weeks.
Yes.
I'm not getting a lot of love on my thoughts about Kelsey and just, the attitude that I'm seeing and whatnot. Like I said, I ain't blaming nobody for that. I mean, some people might, I'm not saying that, but it's like the entitlement that we always talk about, that we hate in sports.
Yep.
He seems to become he's close to being a poster child for it. There's some guys in the NBA that might beat him out, but he's really close to being in the top 5 of entitled athletes. And to do that, I don't care. I heard Andy Reid his comment on it, I think on ESPN yesterday morning, which I really listened to. But I guess I was in a moment of weakness. I listened to it, and he was talking. Caught me by surprise. It's all good. I'm like, I don't know. It didn't feel good to me. It was like you kind of overstepping. It's kind of like your dad by the horse carving your dad. You know what I'm saying? It's like, do you do that? Do you want to get slapped? Yeah. So it's like I don't understand how that was able to slide like that. And it's like if that can slide on that stage, what else can happen?
Yeah.
There was stuff during the regular season that he did. And stuff that didn't get a penalty that he was doing. I'm like, wow.
I would bet he probably gets a fine. Right, I would bet the NFL levies a fine on him. And the thing that was funny is it looked like he planned to like come up and just kind of like grab his arm, right? Because when he ran into him and Reed about dropped his stuff, Kelsey looked as surprised as Reed did. He was like, "Oh," but then, then went back to yelling about
and stuff. Yeah.
But that initial contact, they were both. You could tell they both were startled from that contact.
I can't believe I'm bigger than you and almost knocked you over. I could already see the headline, by the way. It would have been "Cruel Summer for the Chiefs." I guarantee you 1,000%.
Yes. Well, and then the Andy Reid retirement, like talk would be off the charts.
Oh yeah.
Right? They're like, he got knocked down. He's lost his team. He's got to retire. Right. Like the narratives, had it gone the other way, would be hilarious. Like I would be here for it.
Oh yeah. Well, you look at like a Stephon Diggs situation or like an AJ Brown, and whenever they're upset and the team loses, it's headlines. It's Stephon Diggs. Is he asking for a trade? What's going on in Buffalo? But you win, nobody says a word. There were problems with Buffalo, and then they went on this win streak. They get the number 2 seed. They're hosting. Everything was fine. They lost to Kansas City, and now it's Diggs asking for a trade again. So you just see how much it flips between winning and losing. And that's, you're exactly right on the Kelsey situation.
Well, and it was one of the things that was funny. AJ Brown tweeted out, right? He's like, if that was me, I'd be kicked out the league.
Yeah.
And, he's kind of not wrong.
Yeah. I agreed with that. I think a lot of people were like, yeah. So
he's not
that narrative.
Man, it was a fun game though. I will say that. Like, it was the ultimate Buffalo Wild Wings type of game. They had the remote, looked like it was going into a double overtime. It definitely was a fun watch. We ended up winning one of our squares, right? Because nobody wanted to put points on the board in the first quarter. And we had the zeros, right? So when we got the zeros square, I was just like, cool. Yeah. It's not going to pay out. And then it goes 0-0 through the first, and you're like, well, okay. Hey, how about that?
Just like I planned.
Right? It's amazing. Like,
I'm a genius.
I figured there'd be one frame that someone got blanked. I didn't think they'd both get blanked for the first quarter.
Right. Right. So you're watching C-Mac fumble and go, oh, I've got a shot here.
Like, that was a really
chance.
That was a lot of time for the punt that they did.
Yeah.
Because that's all it was, right? They drive down, they get them right around the 20, and they're like, okay, here you go.
Here you go. Yeah. Yeah. And then they show the stat. He's like, oh, he's fumbled like 3 times all year. I'm like, how is this one of those then? Like,
so, the thing that's funny is when you were watching the game, like, the balls looked darker than normal and shinier. So it's almost like they were waterlogged or something before, right? Because if you watch the game, like, there was a very real shine to those balls, and it's not like there's more lights or cameras for the Super Bowl, right? Like, there's already 22 cameras all the time.
So you're saying it's like an anti-Tom Brady ball? Is that what you're saying?
They looked like they might have been hard when you think about how many fumbles were in this game.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, so I'm writing down some notes for Monday show. Shiny balls.
Yes.
No. I mean, definitely take a look at it.
Take that one out of context.
Absolutely. Yes. Make sure you throw, chef on the screen.
Who are the chefs?
Oh my goodness.
But,
no, I mean, you're right though. There was a lot of bad ball security. Especially from your 2 best teams. Like,
there were 3 lost fumbles, and I think there was 8 total.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's not good.
No, I mean, so it makes you think something was a little bit different, because you're talking about guys that have been in big moments. So it's not like the moment was too big for them. And you're talking about guys that are generally good with ball security. So I don't know. It was kind of crazy. It was something that I kind of watched throughout the game. It was just seemed odd to have so many fumbles in that game.
Like you said, especially from your 2 best teams, you expect more from them. And then, like you said, it was guys who were, C-Mac never fumbles. One of your fumbles, a bad pitch from from Mahomes, and it's just the pitch. You're like, just throw it to the, you've probably done this a million times, and it's like, hey, this is off. So then the interception looked terrible. Kelsey's like, where is this? Oh, that's not to me. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure where this one is going. There was just a lot of weird things in that one.
Yeah.
No, and it's funny because of all the prop bets, that was the one I was like, if you were gonna bet on this game, that's the one to bet on, is an anytime pick from Mahomes, and only because he's thrown a lot of picks in Super Bowls, right? So at this point, he's got 5 picks.
Regular season too.
I guess he only likes the fourth quarter. Is that what we're saying?
What's that?
Yeah, I guess he only likes the fourth quarter. Is that what we're saying? The rest of the game, you might get anything from him, and then the fourth quarter, it's like we button down.
He's throwing picks in the fourth quarter too, especially in the regular season this year.
Yeah, regular season, sure. Yeah,
he's done that.
Oh, and real quick, Kittle had 1,000 yards, 1,020 yards receiving.
There you go.
Year. So he
when
Debo was only 892. I guess his 1,000 yards was combining his rushing with it. He had 225 rushing.
That makes sense. Well, and Debo was hurt.
I don't think that stat meant 2023. I think it's just guys on the team that have done it.
I thought you said 1,000-yard playmakers.
Yeah, I don't think that. It didn't say it was what year it was.
Oh, well,
no, I mean that would be this year. You have Ayuk at 13, Kittle, McCaffrey, and Debo. If you're doing rushing and receiving,
I don't know they're doing that. So is anybody else that?
No, anywhere close to that? No. That
Definitely
would be 4 though. You said 4, right?
Yeah, it was 4.
Yeah, that would be 4.
Yeah. Well, and Kittle got a lot of work when Debo was out.
Yeah. He had some big games. I think he piled up a lot of his yardage in like certain games. When they had somebody down, they really got him down.
That was a quiet one.
Was one of those go for the kill shot kind of team. So
yeah, that was quiet.
I agree.
I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
Very quiet. I didn't see that. Okay.
All right. So let's talk about some Hall of Fame. Actually, yeah, let's talk about Hall of Fame. All right. We got Dwight Freeney, defensive end, 7-time Pro Bowl, 3-time All-Pro, All-Decade team, 18th in sacks, 47 fumbles, 7 seasons with 10-plus sacks, 4 fumbles in 8. I mean, just an absolute stud. Man, this was actually probably one of the Hall of Fame lists that I've liked more than in past years. Right? Like there's always been that kind of questionable guy that's gotten in. And this time around, when you go through the list, they all look pretty good. Which one do you not like?
It's not going to say I don't like it because that's disrespectful to the player. But Andre Johnson, I mean, I watched his entire career. And I felt like he was just a stud and deserved to be there. I think I'm just, if this is about numbers, which I think the Hall of Fame is about numbers.
Sure.
There's somebody that beat him out that's not in. May get a chance to get in because he still has more years of eligibility, so to speak. But that's Reggie Wayne.
Okay.
Reggie Wayne had him beat by catches, yards, total, and touchdowns. All 3 of the categories that they keep on touting as a standard or a measuring stick. Andre Johnson had 1,052 catches. Wayne had 1,070. Johnson had 14,185 yards. Wayne had 14,345. 70 touchdowns, 82 touchdowns in favor of Wayne. I'm like, okay, so that's what we're talking about. That's the measuring stick. Why is Wayne not going in over Johnson? It's kind of weird. I mean, Toby Holt, he doesn't have those numbers exactly. He's close. He has more touchdowns than Andre Johnson does, but that's where the comparison ends. So I understand why he didn't get in, but Wayne should have got in before Andre Johnson, and that didn't happen. And we haven't even gotten to the Antonio Gates conversation yet. That's a whole different situation for me.
And I agree that Wayne should be in, but I mean, he does have some things that kind of go his way a little bit. He led the league in receiving twice, in receptions and yards, right? 21 games with 10 plus receiving, and over 100 yards, most all time. with 10 plus and 150 with a touchdown most all time. And then him and Jerry Rice are the only two with multiple 1,400 yard seasons after age 30, right? That's pretty close company there. So, and last I checked, Jerry's in there.
Last you checked. But you had to check though, right? You did.
I mean, I didn't want to assume. So, I mean, there are some things that, that do favor Andre Johnson. Plus, he got to beat up Finnegan and everybody enjoyed that. So, but I mean, I agree with you though. Like Wayne absolutely should be in there. I have to assume he will get in. I mean,
I would hope so.
It would be a weird exclusion.
Yeah.
I
like the Hester inclusion just because it's simply on returns, and it's interesting that he's getting in for a part of the game that they're getting rid of. Like Hester today might not make it because he just wouldn't have the same opportunities he had back then. So
no doubt.
It's interesting to get him in there and to kind of recognize that as well.
It would be so hard to keep a guy out that was on two different all-decade teams and the all-century team. But I mean, and then of course being the only player to have 5 special teams touchdowns in a year, and he did it twice, right? So I mean, like, how do you keep that guy out?
I'm trying. I don't know the answer to this, but I don't know how the BBW AA. It's a lot of letters. Kind of early for that. But you're trying to figure out how they decide this. Is it just regular season? Is it postseason as well? I mentioned Antonio Gates. I'm like, it's not because I've had a secret infatuation with the Chargers. That's not really the reason why. But he had 116 touchdowns, which is more than Tony Gonzalez, the guy that they said unanimously was the number one tight end in history. And then it was going to be after that Gronk, Graham, Kelsey, and Witten as far as touchdown numbers. And Gates smokes all of those and didn't get in. It's like, what are we talking about? It's just the playoffs. The playoffs wasn't great. It was like 5-7 in the playoffs, but it's kind of more Rivers' fault than anybody else. But so it's a thing where. Huh?
I said you just throwing at everybody this morning.
Right?
Huh?
I'm saying, is that not true though? Titans can't catch their own passes. I mean,
these aren't even strays. He's just lobbing grenades.
Yeah, he's just lobbing grenades. We'd like to apologize to the Rivers and the Johnson families and whoever's next.
Nah, man, I love Rivers. When he came up with in the draft with us, I wasn't even mad about him potentially coming over with us. I wasn't mad, but when Eli came over, I'm like, okay. Eli pulled a power move. I didn't care which one it was. We needed a quarterback, so I was down for either one of those. In hindsight, I'm glad we got the one that won 2 Super Bowls. But I mean, I don't see how Gates is getting passed up over the guys that are in this list. I'm like, okay, so what do they choose? Or it's a regular season and the playoffs together, or because it seems to be inconsistent. I mean, Andre Johnson, how much? What's his playoff record? Anybody know what his record is in the playoffs?
What, Andre Johnson?
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, do you remember playoff? I'm asking because I don't remember any of this
stuff. Texans, like, how good did you?
Right.
Okay. See, now we're here. You ain't got to look up nothing. You don't remember that stuff. It doesn't come out at all. But Reggie Wayne.
Yeah.
But Reggie Wayne, you remember him being in the playoffs, right?
Remember Reggie Wayne being in the playoffs, right? Yeah, but you're not comparing apples to apples, though.
No, I'm just saying that in Gates, on his part, they're blaming him for his postseason. Probably why he didn't get in. But for Andre Johnson, they excluded his postseason and letting him get in. It didn't line it up. If it's going to be regular season and postseason, it's going to be the reason why you're voting somebody in and giving that 75%. Okay, good. If it's going to be one or the other, you can't change your mind and move the needle and change the standard whenever it suits you. If Andre Johnson doesn't have a good postseason record, okay, him and Gates should both be out. If you only include the regular season, which Gates has historic numbers, you got to bring him in. That's all I'm saying.
No, I mean, the goalpost is always moving. That's nothing new.
Yeah. The human element tells you that there's no criteria. You know, whatever one person's looking at, the other person isn't. So there's never going to be a consistent vote to the whole thing. I
mean, the fact that Tio wasn't a first ballot lets you know that there's a human element to it. It has nothing to do with stats.
Right.
Because otherwise, like if you're looking at pure stats, that dude's what should have been a first ballot.
Right.
Like he walks up, collects a jacket, says thanks, and moves on with his day. But instead, that's how it goes down.
Yeah. Well, because sometimes how you relate to the media affects your candidacy too as well, and we've seen that in other sports too. So. Well, I'm not saying it's right. These are just the explanations for it. This is why they do what they do.
You can bet in that voting room, those haymakers he landed on Finnegan, 100% was brought up in that conversation. And as much as everybody didn't like that guy, probably helped him. Like, had he been swinging on somebody they liked, they'd have been like, oh, he's a bully and whatever, right? But because everybody thought that dude was annoying, they're like, you know what? I kind of wish I could have got a couple swings. Yeah, no, it's, but yeah, I mean, do I think some of those other guys should have got in? Absolutely, of course. But, the AP voters are going to do whatever they do.
Okay.
And then, all right, so let's keep going. Let's talk about this MLB Hall of Fame. Changing sports here.
Do we have enough time? Oh my goodness!
I wanted to make sure I got to it because I've been trying to get it in, but that's an hour show, and sometimes it's hard to fit everything in. But there were some snubs in it. One of them in particular I didn't love, and that is Gary Sheffield getting not only not getting in, but now doesn't have eligibility. It was his last year, and comes up short. And for that guy to not be included, whether you think he was a jerk or not, the stats say he should be in the Hall.
Right.
Facts. He used to be a fun fact. We used to go to church together. I used to sit behind him and his wife. And, I never asked him nothing and asked for an autograph, nothing like that. But I watched his career, especially when I was down there in Tampa. And I mean, this guy had historic numbers, man. 22-year career. I mean, 9-time All-Star, 5-time Silver Slugger. The man was feared at the plate. There wasn't much you can say about him that when he didn't deliver. He had some injuries and stuff, but most Major League Baseball players had that. I found something I think might be a loophole for him to get in because I was really kind of bothered by the fact that he had 10 tries and didn't get in. Like, wow, his name being in the Mitchell report must have been the biggest factor for that. First, he was a witness against Barry Bonds, and now he is a participant and didn't no evidence he did anything really.
Right.
But there's something called the error committee system.
Yes.
I never heard of it before, but I guess this is their.
He does have
their last chance. Basically, it's comprised of managers, umpires, and executives. They get 48 votes to get somebody who, in Sheffield's case, had 10 tries and couldn't get in. He has a chance to get in through that committee. I'm not sure if he cares about it now. I'm not sure what his feelings are, but that's a kind of a silver lining if we have one. He can still get voted in, which is, I think, what he deserves to be at this point in time. I mean, numbers-wise, and on top of that, guys that are in the Hall of Fame that he even said himself in an interview recently that there's guys in the Hall of Fame that have used roids and they're in. Yeah. This guy hasn't been shown to be proven to do anything like that and can't get in for 10 tries. That's a little bit weird. Maybe somebody can explain that, but that's a little bit weird. Yeah. But aside from that, man, he should have got in. The other guy is Billy Wagner. That's another really longer story, I guess, because wow, how do you not get him in? Postseason has been an issue, like over 10 runs, ERA in a postseason, but in the regular season, the man was smoke.
Well,
into the thing, man, he was incredible.
That's like there's a guy that it was his 7th try at it and only collected like 13% of the vote, which means the trend is he's probably not going to get in.
Right.
And that's Omar Vizquel, an 11-time Gold Glove winner, is probably also going to miss, which is insane.
Who is voting?
Right? That's what I was thinking. Did you just not watch baseball? Because, I mean, how do you keep?
You can't pronounce his last name. What's the problem?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and he will probably fall in that same area that Sheffield does, where it'll have to be the corrections committee, which is, like you said, it's voted on by actual baseball people.
Right? Wagner has more time. I just forgot how much it was that I saw. He has more opportunity. It's not. I don't think he has 5 more shots. I think it's a little bit less than that, maybe 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. But he got a shot. But I mean, he was shy of 5 votes and shit. It's like, wow, who were the idiots that didn't put him in?
So if he was that close, at least that's trending in the direction that he probably does get in.
Right.
It's when you see a guy like Omar Vizquel, where he's got 13% of the vote.
Yeah, he's not.
You ain't getting in.
Sheffield's progressing as well. I mean, in 5 years, he went from 13 point something to like 63.9, something like that. I'm like, so he was trending up too, but it's like, wow, how was he so far away from 75%?
Yeah. It's like they're trying to erase that little Balco era of things like it didn't happen, you know, and it's like he was still feared and didn't get convicted. Like, he should be in. It's just, you know, even people who are just casual baseball watchers like me back at that time knew the name Gary Sheffield. Like, that's just, I don't know, almost seems like a no-brainer for when it pops up and you're like, oh, it's a snub. I'm like, okay, so really you had, and I'm reading the whole thing and it's like, what, one receipt for $15 worth of stuff or something at one time in his whole life. And I'm like, you think that's what made him a great hitter was maybe this one thing? No, he should just be in and stop trying to distance yourself from an era that, you know, if you really want to go deep dive, like it seemed like Major League Baseball was fine with it until they weren't. And then it all came crashing down. But they were fine when ratings went up. So
for sure. I mean, it saved baseball, honestly.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because they're so inconsistent about the steroid use, right? Yeah. So if you got caught for it before you went in the hall, oh, it's a problem. It's a problem. But if you're already in, it's not like they're like, hey, we're going to take your bus down.
Right.
Right. They're like, you snuck in. Hey, good on you. Like, you know, right. So it's like when, you know, any of the leagues, right? If you get caught cheating, they don't take your ring away. Right.
They just pretend like it didn't happen and they don't mention you much anymore. Like, oh, yeah, I mean, I guess he's still in the hall. We won't worry about it. But who we caught right before the vote.
Exactly.
And it could be like, but we were at the same party. Sorry.
Exactly. He already got in though.
Yeah,
so
you know, I don't make the rules.
Is this voting thing going to always be like this?
It's always human based.
The trend is just like in every single sport, like even in NHL, same situation, same arguments. I'm like, is that what we're doing? Yeah. I mean, are we going to be? This is not good to miss stuff. I'm talking about statistically wise and ignoring numbers and adding other stuff into this. It's like. This is not going to be good. This is a bad precedent that's going on so long. I'm like, how are we just not? Why is that not being addressed? I mean, there's backlash from the fans and stuff. It's like, seriously, we do this every year.
It's funny because for like the NFL, your ability to vote, right, is you had to be I think you got to be a beat writer for, I think it's 5 years, and then you still have voting abilities 10 years after you're done, after you leave being a writer, right? So, I mean, it's not even like this is being voted on by like peers or, you know, football people, right? And baseball is similar from what I've read. And I mean, so there's going to be some weird biases, and there's also going to be some of the guys that are towards the end of their eligibility that are going to have a hard time because some of those writers are now a lot younger and never saw them play.
Right. And so what they're going by is articles and numbers, and they're probably reading a lot of the same stuff that's out there. They have a whole year to research, and they're like, oh, this guy was almost convicted of something.
Exactly.
I can have my vote on that guy, right?
Yep.
When you don't really, you know, like you said, you've got to see some of these guys in person and see them play and really realize the impact they made versus, you know, reading about it in an article. But that's what happens. I mean, we said across every sport, that's what people do. Somebody shows up tomorrow, hits, you know, 30 points in a game or throws for 4 touchdowns. And what do we say? Is that guy the greatest ever? And we're like, so you've never watched any other sport before today, right?
Exactly.
That's what you get with a lot of these younger guys, you know?
Yep.
We're ready to anoint the next person. Yeah, we want to anoint the next guy. We don't care about anybody that came before, and that's just kind of what happens today.
Well, and that's why some of the things that have been talked about over the last couple of days is Mahomes the GOAT, right? And you're just like, back the train up a little bit, right? Does he have a path to get there? Sure. Can he even be talked about on the Mount Rushmore? Absolutely. Let's leave GOAT status out of this for a while yet. You still got some years to play. You got some rings to collect. Let's calm down.
Right. And what I hate about those talks is it's like, if I say no, so you don't like Mahomes? Why is it got to be one way or another? Why can't I just say he's great right now and I want to give him time? Like, why is that not a thing? It's not either a for or against. It's all right. I've seen the people that came before him, and if he retired right now, would you say he's the GOAT? No. So you can't say
exactly
he's still got time to play and he's the GOAT. Like, just give him time.
Who's the person that starts this stuff, man? Who's doing this every year? Who starts this stuff? Like, this is not a conversation.
Yeah.
You can't talk about the GOAT, man.
If you were to quit today, would he be in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you being the GOAT.
Exactly.
Brady, in some people's minds, Brady barely got that. Montana was fighting to the end for most of the fans. Brady barely got that until that last Super Bowl. Mahomes is nowhere near that. Why are we doing this?
Oh yeah.
Everybody that sees somebody right now wants to anoint them the greatest.
Yeah.
So.
Like LeBron.
I agree with you, Herb. It is really funny where, someone will be like, do you want an apple or an orange? And you're like, oh, I want an apple. So they're like, oh, so you hate oranges? You're like, who said that?
I know. I just like apples.
I don't hate LeBron. Just to be clear, I don't hate LeBron.
Yeah.
No. I don't either. I don't even mind those. At least with LeBron, they're waiting towards the end of his career and saying stuff. There's a lot. Like, I know nobody, we're never going to talk about women's basketball stuff, but I keep reading this stuff. They're like, oh, is Caitlin Clark the best women's player ever? Like, with no titles and still in college? No. Like, what are we talking about? But these are the kind of things that.
A Sue Bird career?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm saying. I want to go here on Monday, but I don't know if we're going to have time for it then either. But I mean, I have to ask myself a really deep question after the Super Bowl, because we heard so much about that word dynasty, and we heard it so much. Like, wow, I'm like, do I really want to see a dynasty? I wasn't super thrilled with the Patriots and how that whole thing played out with the whole dynasty thing. I'm like, everybody wanted it to just be over,
Yeah.
It's like, do we really want to have a Chiefs dynasty like that? I mean, I'm asking myself, do I really want that? I kind of don't.
No,
I mean,
no,
short answer.
I don't think anybody wants a dynasty unless it's your team.
Yeah,
okay. Even then, what's gonna challenge you if you have your team and just blowing everybody out? It's like, is that gonna be fun?
Can I speak as somebody? If Alabama won 3 national titles in a row and we won them all by 50, I'd be the happiest guy ever. Like, I don't really care. And I don't care if we were playing, I don't know, the New Jersey Technical Institute or whatever in every single game. I don't care. They were like, their last 3 titles, they beat Furman, they beat NJT and the School for the Deaf and Blind. And I'd go, I don't care. I would hang my banners and I would.
Wow.
But if everyone else hated it, if anyone else won that, I'd be tearing them apart. Oh, I hate those guys. So, yeah.
No,
I adversity.
I really think there's, I really believe there is a dynasty fatigue.
Yes.
Which is why KC is getting pushed back now, because it's not like anybody hates KC, right? Like, they're not a team where you're like, I hate that team for whatever reason. Like, they don't gather that ire from other fan bases, really. They're not
right.
Like the Cowboy fan base or stuff like that, right? They just don't have that circle around them. But you go directly from the Patriots dynasty directly into this, and there's some fatigue there. People are like, hey, we want to see other people in this game.
Right.
So no, I mean, I think that's where some of the KC, hate, I guess, comes from. Is they're just like, we want to see other people here.
Yeah.
And I can get that.
Yeah. Unless you're a KC fan, I think that's exactly
more fun that way.
Yeah. No, I don't want. And to your other point, Mr. G, I've got enough adversity in my own life. I don't need it from my sports teams. I need them to make my life a little easier at times.
That's right.
So now, 50-point wins every game, national title. That's what I'm hoping for.
I respect that.
All right. Let everybody know how they can find you guys.
They Call Me Mr. U on our YouTube channel, and of course, also same name on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Come join
at
us.
Raj and
License-
Herb. Oh, sorry. I thought we were trying to rush it.
Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. I thought we were trying to rush it. At Raj Herb on Twitter and Herb Raj Podcast on YouTube.
Right on.
Oh.
Thanks for tuning in. This has been your Wednesday wrap up. If you're watching on Roku, be sure to stay tuned in the next hour. Other than that, be sure to like and subscribe if you are watching on our YouTube channels. Helps us bring our content to you. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Wrapped up.